There are tales littered all across the wastelands of the old world. Within these tales are secrets, knowledge, and legends waiting to be told. I've traversed the boneyards of once great cities to collect these chronicles of post-apocalyptia. Some of these stories are beyond logical reasoning. Are these just radiation-poisoned brains conjuring up these myths, or is there some truth to be found in them? Only you can decide, as we step into the haze of Wastelord's legends.
War. War never changes. Battles do, through the technology that is used. From bronze to steel to Kevlar, mankind has always developed ways to protect themselves from their biggest enemy, each other. But in the 21st century, everything changed when Westech created the first set of powered combat infantry armor, or power armor. The T-45 was the first of this deadly invention, and while it had many flaws, such as being less mobile and defensive as the later models, it was still leagues above any other armor that was previously seen on the battlefield. After 9 years of designing and testing, the latter of which being tested at Fort Strong, the T-51b model of power armor was deployed on June 2076 in China, and performed significantly better than its counterpart, the T-45. This suit was so impressive that there were even some cases in which Chinese troops immediately surrendered at the sight of the 7'3" metal giants wielding miniguns. This armor also saw combat in Canada against insurrectionists, as well as in Alaska during the Chinese occupation, ending an 11-year war almost immediately, due to the mechanized armored suits. The T-51 was designed with the intention of doing everything the T-45 couldn't, such as offering greater protection, better stability through gyroscopic stabilizers, and shock absorbers. One of the best aspects of this armor is its mobility and strength, and despite it being more resistant to attacks than the T-45, its design made it much lighter, and therefore faster on the battlefield. Looking at the overall design of the armor, it is round almost all over the suit, from the head to the pauldrons to the chest piece. While this looks great aesthetically, it also helps deflect attacks, as rather than hitting a flat surface with maximum power, they are instead deflected, reducing kinetic deliverance, which protects the user furthermore. The visor of the armor is bullet resistant, meaning it is very strong, but a well-placed shot with a higher caliber, such as one from a rifle, can kill the user. This armor features a headlight, an air filtration system for hazardous environments, radiation protection, a rangefinder, a comms system, a waste filtration system, a gyroscopic stabilizer, and protected oxygen tanks, with many optional additions, including, but not limited to, a jetpack, a targeting HUD, and an internal database. While many believe that due to how they are named, the T-60 is the better suit of armor. However, there are some things to consider. Firstly, the T-51b has significantly greater resistances to both physical and electrical attacks, although it has a much weaker resistance to radiation in comparison, even being weaker than the T-45 in terms of protection against rads. The T-51 also has been claimed as the pinnacle of pre-war power armor. The reason T-60 is more common, however, is simply due to it being much easier to produce, therefore making it a favorable choice of a collapsing nation with dwindling resources, as well as the Brotherhood of Steel. Another reason the T-51 is more advanced is it isn't built upon an existing model like the T-60, which has many of the weaknesses of the T-45, such as its stomach area being a significant weak point.
There was a flaw in the welding, just below the chest plate. I wonder if they fix that in this new model. I guess not.
An entry from the Zax computer located in the Westech research facility in California states the suit was made of the latest polylaminate composite. The T-51b shell is lightweight and capable of absorbing over 2,500 joules of kinetic impact. The 10-micron silver ablative coating can reflect laser and radiation emissions without damage to the composite subsurface. As someone who has spent my fair share of time in this model, as well as someone who has worked on this suit, I can confirm that this information is true, despite causing controversies between scribes and other wannabe researchers. As the statement makes clear, this armor can absorb the kinetic energy from an attack of more than 2,500 joules, not that it can only withstand 2,500 joules of energy from an attack. This means that if the armor didn't have this, an attack such as from a 50 cal, which has a much higher energy output than 2,500 joules, will be stopped by the armor, but would still kill the user inside due to the energy output. Much like most armor, it's not hard to stop a bullet, but it's rather about absorbing the lethal shock from the impact. For instance, an armor plate or piece of combat armor can stop a 50 caliber bullet from penetrating. However, this doesn't really matter, as the impact would still kill the user wearing the armor. Due to the power armor's subsurface being able to absorb over 2,500 joules of kinetic impact, the wearer can easily survive this attack. Think of this subsurface as a shock absorber underneath the steel armored exterior. Many scribes and wastelanders may argue with this explanation, believing the armor itself can only stop small arms fire. However, this is simply untrue, because this statement calls the polylaminate composite the subsurface of the armor. Therefore, it isn't this armor itself. So when discussing the T-51, there is the power armor frame, which can be powered by a fusion core. Then there's the polylaminate composite shell, which works as an underlayer for the armor pieces. And then there's the armor, which can be attached to the frame. And lastly, the 10-micron silver ablative coating. Some evidence to support this is that if one were to believe that the shell is the armor itself, despite the text saying otherwise, then the armor wouldn't be able to stop calibers such as .308, despite combat armor being able to do so, as well as much thinner steel being able to do the same thing. And if one were to claim that the armor doesn't contain steel, as it is a polylaminate composite, this would also be untrue, as the armor can rust, and it requires a hefty amount of steel to craft and to repair. In the post-war remains of America, this suit is idolized for its impressive stats, gorgeous visuals, and its ability to dominate on the battlefield. It is primarily used by the Brotherhood of Steel, although as of recently, they have been transitioning to their own modified suits of T-60, likely due to it being easier to produce, as well as standardize, making training far easier. As for me, I will choose the T-51b over any other model, not because it is the reason Anchorage was liberated, or that it was worn by the one who defeated the Master, not even because it is one of the strongest pre-war variants, but simply because it is so damn sexy. Folks, that's going to do it for today's broadcast. If you enjoyed, be sure to like and subscribe, as I will be covering each set of powered combat infantry armor, as they are the reason I became enthralled with Fallout. Thank you all so much for your continued support, channel members, and with all of that out of the way, may the Wasteland treat you with peace and prosperity.